Any Lebanese person you talk to remembers 2006 as a major drama. Lebanon had this terrible civil war. Some might remember from about 1975 to 1990. 2006 was kind of felt like the return of the worst things from their past. And this feels like another return of that, right? So there's going to be a lot of people who are mad at Hezbollah as well.
As for this Nasrallah thing, first of all, in terms of how escalatory this is on Israel's part, Israel's done a number of things that were escalatory. Hitting an Iranian embassy compound in Syria, assassinating the, political leader of Hamas on Iranian territory, and so on. But this guy's the leader of Hezbollah, which is not just, not just a militia, right? It's like a political party. So he's the head of a political party that has seats in the parliament in Lebanon?
Yeah, so Nasrallah is and has been for a long time the leader of Hezbollah, right? And for a little perspective, listeners to the podcast have heard this before, but Hezbollah kind of was formed during Israel's occupation of Lebanon in the 80s, basically in opposition to the Israeli presence. And Nasrallah has been a major figure in that movement basically ever since. And Hezbollah is basically, so the system in Lebanon gives a certain amount of seats and a certain amount of representation to different religious groups, to different confessional groups. And Hezbollah has been the dominant Shiite group for a long time in Lebanese politics. So this is both a very powerful militia, probably more powerful than the Lebanese army itself, and one of the most prominent political parties in the country.
Mm-hmm. And roughly speaking, governance is divided kind of in three ways. There are specific positions reserved for a Christian, a Sunni, and a Shia. Is that right?
Yes, that's right. So it's the president, the prime minister, and the speaker of parliament that are divvied up between the three. And so this is if they have indeed succeeded in killing Nasrallah today, it'll have pretty huge reverberations. In a country that's already it really bears emphasizing just how bad life in Lebanon was, even more than a year ago, even before these issues started happening between Israel and Hezbollah, right? The government has been basically completely collapsed for the last several years. There's really basic social services not existing. It's dire, and this has the potential to make it that much worse.
Yeah, and what there's a lot of hostility in Lebanon toward Hezbollah, I gather, not so much on the part of Shia, I guess. But they were in 2006, they got involved in a big kind of war with Israel. Israel wreaked devastation upon the landscape, and Nasrallah kind of half apologized afterwards, right? For bringing that on the country?
Yeah, to a certain extent. It was terrifying, right? Any Lebanese person you talk to remembers 2006 as a major drama. It's the first major military kind of issue because, Lebanon had this terrible civil war. Some might remember from about 1975 to 1990. 2006 was kind of felt like the return of the worst things from their past. And this feels like another return of that, right? So there's going to be a lot of people who are mad at Hezbollah as well.
That was my question. Is there kind of nothing that could unify Lebanon at this point around Hezbollah?
That would be a real stretch. Picturing like people that are Christian or Sunni supporting Hezbollah would be really unusual. It's just the tensions between these communities are so deep. You even think it goes down to schooling even, right? There's an interesting kind of fact about modern Lebanese schooling, which is that when they teach, they don't actually teach the Civil War in public schools, even though this is this incredibly momentous event, because it produces so much anger, so much frustration between the communities that it's left to the Christians to teach the Christian narrative, the Sunnis to teach the Sunni narrative, the Shiites to teach the Shia narrative. So that is like the level of political distinction drawn between these groups. So no, I can't imagine them rallying together.
So there will be no unified a kind of military response against Israel. Of course, the government's military is not nearly as strong as Hezbollah anyway, right? That is the strongest military in Lebanon. I gather Israel has done significant damage to it over the last week or two, starting with the pager attacks, which sent it into a certain amount of organizational disarray, which Israel then kind of capitalized on by following that up with airstrikes that were presumably more successful than they would have been had there not been that disruption.